Namaste and welcome to the Kapeel Gupta Career PodShow, the place where we
Thank you.
decode real career journeys and discover what it truly takes to live a life of purpose. And today, we are honored to host a leader whose very presence carries the discipline, courage, and aura of the Indian Armed Forces. Major General Shammi Sabharwal. He served the Indian Army with distinction for nearly 4 decades in the elite regiment of artillery, an alumnus of the prestigious Rashtriya Indian Military College in Dehradun and the National Defense Academy. He has commanded troops in challenging terrains, mentoring young officers at the School of Artillery, and even served as a United Nations military observer in Rwanda. He later led as the General Officer commanding Uttarakhand sub-area and as Additional Director General of National Cadet Corps for Bihar and Jharkhand. And after hanging up his uniform, Major General Sabharwal continues to inspire thousands of defense aspirants as a mentor and SSB interviewing officer, shaping the next generation of Indian military leaders. So, General Sabharwal, is an absolute privilege to have you with us today. Your journey is a living example of grit, service, and honor. And I'm sure our listeners, especially the young men and women dreaming of a life in uniform, are going to learn priceless lessons from you. So, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us today. So over to you, sir.
Kapil, for calling me to your show. I'm sure this is going to be a very, very nice interactive session, and I'm honored to be here this evening.
So the honor is all mine, and I'm sure all my listeners, because they are career aspirants and all those who have this hidden desire to join the armed forces, they'll get golden nuggets and real life examples listening from you. So I'm sure, yes, as you said, it will be a wonderful podcast and love listening to you. And sir, to begin with, like we always say, the calling. So, what first inspired you to choose a life in the armed forces? And when did you know that this was your true path? Because I meet students who are in 12th, even in college, and they are still clueless. So, what about you, sir?
Very interesting question. Actually, Kapil, if I tell you very honestly, I think the destiny was the reason why I ended up in the armed forces. You'll be surprised when I'm giving this credit to destiny, because I'm talking of year of the Lord 1968. I was just about 8 years old, and my father, his business is there in was there in Saharanpur that time. So one of his very close friend, one day he, because my father's office was next to Clock Tower. So he passed from there. He took a little, a halt at my father's office. And he said, I'm going to drop my son to RIMC. And he said, you also have a son. Why don't you also put him in RIMC? Now, he went to Dehradun from Saharanpur, dropped his son. On his way back, he again, halted at my father's office, gave him the previous papers and the prospectus of RIMC. Now, just look at the, destiny part. Thereafter, like every Sunday, my father would take me with him to the office. He will set, papers for me and would make me solve mathematical problems. Basically first enhancing my, basic skills. So 3 years, every Sunday, I was there with my father's office doing that. And thereafter, we were that time UP had 2 seats every 6 months. So we went to Lucknow for the written exam. Thereafter, the interview, and lo below, I cleared it and I landed up in RIMC. Now, once you land up in RIMC, then you're, like a horse who's being ridden, taken in a particular direction. And by the end of 5 years, you could not think of anything other than armed forces. So that is why, in my case, because my complete family comes from a business background, I'm the only person who's come to the armed forces. So
Wow.
to that end, I thank my uncle who actually, got those prospectus and the papers, and of course my father, who actually became the leading light, and that is where life took me.
No, but this is really surprising, sir, that coming from a business family, and usually we say that parents want the kids to follow their footsteps because usually we say in a business family, uh, you can say the future is kind of secure, or they want children to take up and grow that business. So how come he agreed to it that you joining the armed
I, you
forces?
know, it's very interesting. Actually, my grandfather, he also had a business, and they, at that time during the World War II and all, so they used to, they were dealing with the British armed forces that time. So my father was young, a teenager, and he had seen the armed forces in a very close quarter, and he felt, yeah, this is the right place to be in. But then partition happened, everything got dislocated. So so that is why for him, he said, fine, if I could not fulfill that dream, if my son gets that opportunity, let him do it. And that is
Wow.
why, he did not put any stop in my life.
Great. And his decision, India got a fabulous officer like you.
No, in fact, I would
Wonderful.
say that, when I look back, when I actually honestly look back, I feel that I guess I don't think I would have done that much justice in the business environment the way I could do it in the armed forces, which, you can only see it in retrospect.
Right, 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 right. So that's why I said ki because of his vision, India got an officer like you. So thanks to him.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. And sir, like, and if I ask you, because it was your uncle's vision, your father's vision to make you join that RIMC and NDA, but how did they shape your career? What changes or what difference it made to your life? And if I may ask you, what was the toughest lesson you learned as a cadet there?
Actually, let's be very honest. I was just about 11 and a half years of age, not even 11 and a half complete, when I ended up in the portals of RIMC. Now, that's a very, very tender age. And when you look that at that age, a child, whether it's a boy or a girl, is living in a very, very protected environment.
Right,
And there is no responsibility which is, put on his shoulder, especially if you come from a little respectable background, because things come to you naturally. Now, the first thing over here was you have to do up everything yourself, your clothes, your everything. So the first thing which comes is start becoming independent. That was the first baby step.
right,
I will not talk of discipline because discipline is synonymous with the armed forces. If somebody says discipline and armed forces are different, they are not. They're two sides of the same coin. But there are other things which are equally important. So first is being independent, because unless I become independent, I can't lead others. Then, moment you put in 6 months in the school, now the next new batch which comes, so you have somebody under you whom you are supposed to now guide and you know lead. So that's the next step is you become the cadet guardian, as we call it. So everything that he does, you are responsible for it. So next is sense of responsibility. Because sense of responsibility being ingrained to you when you're just about 11, 12 is remarkable. Then
right,
the thing which comes is that you see, whether it was in your era or my era, normally sports and other activities are generally given a backstage. We are more focused, we are study hard, get good marks. But here in RIMC, it was a balanced approach. You have to be good physically, you have to play games, and also do well in academics. So now this the one word which I have for it, it's called a well-rounded personality. That you have a personality which is very balanced and rounded. It is not either sports or either academics. It is a mix of
Right.
both, and that is what healthy mix of both is what ultimately counts. You know, like I would like to give you an example here because I do a lot of interviews of children, and when they come, so I ask them questions, especially when they're going for SSB. What physical activity are you doing for your SSB? If I tell you some of the answers I get, sir, I run 1 kilometer, I run 2 kilometers. You know what I tell
Okay.
them then? I tell them, I said, see, from my squadron to our academic block, which we call it the Sudan block in NDA, I said that if the day your cycle is not working, or the sergeant is little benevolent on you, the cycle is on top of your head, you have to run more than 1 kilometer to reach over there. So what you are doing in a day, we were doing it in a jiffy like this. So if you think by telling the interim officer that you ran 1 or 2 kilometers, he's going to be impressed? No. You have to increase it. So when I say it, I meant that in RIMC, besides the sense of responsibility that one learned and being independent, the best thing which one developed was a well-rounded personality. And without a well-rounded personality, whether you are in CV Street or in army, you can't work. It is a prerequisite to do well in life.
So, sir, does that mean that if somebody wants to join this, so a person needs to be good physically fit earlier also, or a person can start training after joining?
See, very pertinent question. Actually, I would say that physical fitness should start from the day one, the day you are born.
Right.
Logically, that is how it should be. But then, everybody is not that fortunate. You may not get that many opportunities, But the fact is that if you have some base level of physical fitness, rest NDA, don't worry, NDA will ensure in those 3 years, they will make you fit. But
Yes.
then, it is trying to cope up. It becomes that much harder. So if you have
Right.
started earlier, it helps.
It
Because
helps.
ultimately, please understand that you are doing something at the age of 17, which I started doing at the age of 11. I definitely have an edge over you. So by the time you try to catch up with me, a lot of time would be gone.
Right. Right. So true. Yes. Yes. Fully agree, sir. So I'm sure the listeners will understand what is the
Yes,
importance of starting early if they really want to make a
absolutely.
mark in this. And sir,
Absolutely.
can you describe a typical day of a young officer in the artillery? And what kind of
Uh,
mental and physical preparation does it demand? Because I'm sure artillery is something at an altogether different level.
See, actually, artillery, like any unit, why artillery, even infantry, we there is one basic regime we follow. The basic regime is whether you are in infantry or artillery, you will start with PT in the morning, which may start at 5:45, 6, 6:15, depending on the season. So in winters, it will be at 6:15, and in summers, it will be at 5:45. So PT, you come back, you, after the PT, you spend some time with the troops, come back, have breakfast, and come back to office. Now, you see, there are two regimes. One is your peacetime routine training, which you do, and thereafter, that is individual training. So we have like various upgrading cadres, competitions for, let's say, sports. And so those activities go on during the daytime, amongst other things. Then, because firstly, you must know a skill individually, then it becomes collective training. So in collective training, like in artillery, we call it as practice camp. So in practice camp, because see, we have guns, and guns don't lie. Whatever, because it's the fall of shot which is visible to everybody. You can't say कि नहीं मैंने तो गोला सही मारा था. It is visible on the target. So you
Right.
can't make a mistake. There is no scope for error. So all this part of the training is first done individually. You learn the skills, you hone the skills. Then for about 6 weeks, you go to the ranges. You practice over there, and then you carry out. There is something called execution of a fire plan, where let's say infantry has to capture objective, and you have to do firing on that objective so that the infantry can then walk through, or rather charge through and capture the objective. So now the targets are there, the firing comes. So there is somebody like a young captain, he is the observation post officer. He is the one who's supposed to guide the fire. So unless he knows the nuances of how to bring the fire, how to call the fire, and then if the round has fallen left, right, or short, then how to get it back onto the target. Now, these are the nuances which you learn during the peacetime, and then you practice it during the practice camp, which is selective training. So this is one part. Then the second part is that, which we call it as op alert, which is called operational alert. So that is separate from this practice camp. In that, firing does not take place. This is exercising the commanders. Basically, like let's say a formation has gone on op alert. So basically, it's to rehearse the operation role. So if you are in defensive, you go and clean up your defenses, take up your positions, decide that if the enemy comes from here, this is how we will do it. Now, that is another one. So basically, if you look at it, any soldier, even if he's in the peace area, for about 2.5 to 3 months in a year, he's out from the barracks to the field where he's supposed to practice for the operations. That is how, in a very, very nutshell, because I don't want to make it complicated, otherwise the viewers will not understand it and they will not find it very interesting. So it is in nutshell, that is how we as soldiers work and operate.
But sir, many a times, like we see in TV serials or movies, that cadets getting up early, like, okay, 5:30, I won't say it's too early, but it's very legitimate. But doing exercises till late at night, so they don't get proper sleep time. Is it actually how it happens during the training?
When I talk to you about the practice camp, the final 2 days of the camp, because you have to do so much of work that actually you don't get time to sleep. Actually, they are giving you a full dress rehearsal that if you have to stay awake and work for, say, 48 hours, you should be able to do it. And a similar kind of a thing is done for the commanders at the op alert. Here it is with the troops. Over there, troops are in skeleton. Basically, it is exercising the hierarchy. All junior leaders to the middle level leaders, everybody is exercised. So that is done towards the end. In between, you do dry rehearsals for the same thing. That is how 6 weeks or 4 weeks of op alert is utilized.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And now coming to something more interesting, and I'm sure all the students or the teenagers would love to hear it from you, that could you share one mission or operation that truly tested your courage and decision making?
See, actually, there are a couple of things, which I would like to share with you. At each level, uh, your your thought process changes. What I was telling you was that I will tell you something about, as a major, we were deployed in JNK, and now that is a time, like, as a major, elections were on. We had to we were told that while, 4Gs never interfere in the election process. But all these, if you see people, who are there in the remote areas, the shepherds who take their bakarwas, as we call them, they are up in the hill ranges. They're practicing, they have taken their kettle and all. One challenge was to ensure that these people come down and participate in the election process without influencing them.
Right.
Second was, the challenge was that there were militants who could have hijacked the process.
Right.
So now, like I was, if I tell you that my unit headquarters was where the road had finished. There was no road after that.
Okay.
And my, like headquarter was, for that time I was very, very young and agile. It took me about 1 hour of walking on that mountainous track to reach my location. And from there, I had another two outposts. One was about 40 minutes away, one was about 1.5 hours away. And I was expected to go at least once to these two places in a week.
Okay.
And in addition to that, do other patrolling. So you can imagine that what kind of gruesome routine one was following.
Right,
And to
right,
ensure sanctity of your area. Along with that, you had to also convince these people that, you please go and do the voting. Now, so now, you have your own challenges. So what
right,
I did now, which is actually, some people may challenge the, validity of it. That's a different part. So I said, because I know these people are there in remote areas, they normally need kerosene and all for burning and all. So I said, those of you who will go, so when you passed, because they had to pass through my checkpost, I said, you engross yourself here that you are going down. Election ke baad, when you come back, you will get a bottle of kerosene oil. Now that was the inducement I
like
gave them. I said, hey, whosoever you vote is not my concern. My concern is the voting percentage should be high.
Yes.
So that was one, like challenge, which was, now you have to think out of box, and we did it, and we had a good percentage that time.
Right,
The
right,
second challenge, which was there, of course, which had external factors involved. I was posted in Srinagar that time. That was 2005-06. And, Srinagar is located on the banks of Jhelum River.
right.
And I was responsible for disaster management.
Oh,
Now, dredging of this Dal Lake and the Jhelum River had not been done for quite some time. Now, every
okay.
time during the Civil Military Liaison Conference, we had been telling them that you have to do the dredging. But then, you can't force them. Ultimately, we can only advise.
Right.
Now, moment, the rains would start. And even if it was a very mild drizzle for about, say, 24 hours, now the water level in the Jhelum will cross the danger mark.
Oh,
Okay. Now, once it crosses the danger mark, now see the challenge which comes. Now, the thing is, beyond a certain point, if the water crosses a danger mark, the options are two. Either you have Srinagar flooded, or you break the bank somewhere upstream so that the water from there goes into some of the villages and those areas get flooded. It's a choice between the devil and the deep sea.
right.
Now, as a since I was responsible for disaster management, so we had the engineer companies, and we knew which are the places where you are supposed to do the blasting so that the water, pressure on the river is reduced and Srinagar Valley is saved. Now, this decision to break has to be given by the civil administration. I can't take it. I can't take it. It was not now,
Right.
can you beat it? Like, the water level is going up, and you're continuously talking with your counterpart in the civil at midnight, and they are saying, sir, wo cabinet meeting is on. They will decide. Okay. Now, the thing is, those were those sleepless nights, not only for me, but for my family, because you are on tenterhooks. And there was
Right.
another thing which was there was that the villagers over a period of time knew these are the places where the breach will take place. So the villagers also had their own monitoring team who was standing there to ensure that the army does not do the breaching there. Now that is another
Okay.
complexity.
Right, right,
You want to do a breach, and I know it that you're going to do it here, and my house is going to get flooded. So we
right,
will. They are guarding because they want their village to be safe.
right, right.
So, those 2, 3, 4 days till such, and fortunately, at least in my tenure, both the monsoons the water level will go up much beyond the danger level. And both the seasons we had this problem. The civil Adam did nothing about it. I left that place, and God was kind on me. But if you recall, after a couple of years, because since the civil Adam did nothing, then those massive floods, when they came, they flooded Srinagar. Now the thing is that if you take a lesson, you learn something out of it. But for me, those moments, those days were very, very, tough and challenging, not only for me, but my family who was there, who knew that this man is awake, because anytime any order can come and anything can happen. So very, very tough time.
Agree, sir.
That when you see the complexities of the whole thing, then you realize the challenges is not restricted to just breaching. There are so many other imponderables which are there attached to that.
Right.
That is how it goes.
No, fully agree, sir. Fully agree. And as you mentioned that, family back home were worried, and that is very, very real. So behind every soldier is a family, right? That serves in its own way. Usually we talk about soldiers having the hardships, but that is true that even the family goes through a lot. So how did your family cope with the uncertainty and your postings, at so difficult terrains, at difficult areas?
See, I would put it like this, that normally I ensured that wherever I went, it was a conscious decision that we will stay together. Like in Srinagar, when I had 2 tenures there of 2 years each. I had the option to keep my family in Delhi, but we decided that we will stay together. Because you see, when you're together, it gives a lot of strength. Of course, it has its pitfalls, but then it had a lot of positives. Now the thing is, your family is next to you. So when they see you with the pain, it reduces your pain. But then somebody else is also taking part of that share. Right. And that happens in most cases. And now imagine if my family is there in Delhi, either they will know what's happening here or they will not know what is happening. Right. Now, if they know, then the pain for them is much higher, because they are helpless. They don't even know how much of suffering I'm taking.
Right.
So
but sir, many a times, for example, you were posted in J&K, and as a civilian, whatever knowledge I have is only through newspapers or media channels, right? And we see that the kind of hardships the soldiers face there. So, don't you think if the soldiers have their families also there, it increases their risk?
Yes, actually, you see, thing is that people, there are some places where you can't keep family at all. But even for those people, the option was that you could keep your family in Srinagar. So, once in a while you come back. So, because you see now those who are posted in Rashtra Rifles, now in Rashtra Rifle, you are operating in company basis, so you can't have families there. It's a very hard field conditions. But we have separated quarters in Srinagar where people had the option of keeping their families. And quite a few of them kept also. It's not that they did not keep. So it was a mixed lot. And trust me, my first tenure in Srinagar was in 2000, 2001. That was the time when militancy was at its peak. Right. When I say peak, means peak. Yes. We were there in BB camp. You could not leave BB camp without either the escort, and you could only go if you're going on official duty or you're going on leave. In that case, you should have your air ticket with you, or you go in the convoy. There was no other way you could come out. The things were that strict. So we were actually lived in that condition. And, here I would like to narrate to you one incident. This was year of the Lord 2000, Christmas time, 25th December. That was Vajpayee government, and George Fernandez was the Raksha Mantri. Okay. Now, George Fernandez had started this trend that on Christmas he would first go to Leh, spend time with the troops, then come to Srinagar, have an interaction, and then go back to Bangalore. Okay. So now, since George Fernandez was going to Srinagar and he was to, thereafter around 11:30, 12, he was to land up at Srinagar airfield. Now, I was the operations man. So, and that time, we did not have these laptops and all. So, and my boss had to give him a presentation. So, in a vehicle, we put those desktop computers and all to take it to the VIP lounge of Srinagar Airport. Okay. And I think I must have crossed the BB Camp gate around 9 o'clock. Okay. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, there was a feline attack on the gate. Where a truck full of explosives, it hit through onto the main gate. A lot of people. And, if I say that if I was 15 minutes late, you wouldn't have been interacting with me.
Okay.
In crossing that gate, if I was 15 minutes late, you would have been interacting with me. And, moment it came up, my father, he saw on the news, he called up, where are you? I said, I'm okay, because by then I had not seen the news. So that this thing has happened in our absence. So, those are the complexities which were there at that time.
Right.
But I guess life goes on. Now things are much, much, much better, 100 times better than what it was 25 years back.
Yes. Yeah. This is really adventurous, I would say. No, I don't have the right words actually to express what I'm feeling by listening to this.
I would say it's destiny.
Yeah.
Destiny is one word which comes to my mind. So
yes. But sir, going back to I would say the earlier days, as people say that being discipline and being a soldier is like synonymous, right? We
absolutely.
Always say that there is a unique aura of discipline and confidence around a soldier. So, but how a soldier is able to build this aura? Because as I understand that if such discipline we are able to build in our daily lives, I'm sure everyone's life will be different. But we associate discipline, confidence only with the soldiers, not with the other people. So, what guidance can you give so that we can build in our daily lives as well?
See, actually, what happens is that they say that if charity begins at home. If you see discipline in your house, you see discipline in the school, it automatically starts getting ingrained in your system that yes, this is the way of life. What happens is that either we see in our own house, there is no discipline, that chalta hai attitude, or you are in the school where again, not much impetus is given. And in fact, that is one of the reasons why, even after independence, a lot of people had said that everybody must get, compulsory military training for 1 to 2 years. Now, while that is not feasible in a country like ours, but then there is something called NCC. So a lot of people who join there, they also, that thing gets ingrained into them. But ultimately, I feel discipline is also part of our attitude. That once we say, yes, I will try to be disciplined. I'll tell you, like here also, I've seen a lot of people who follow discipline, who are punctual. And those people have themselves said that because of their following a disciplined life, they create an impression in front of others. Hey, sir, are you retired from the army? And they say, no, we are not retired from the army. But because we are following disciplined life, we are generating that kind of aura around us. So I would like to tell everybody through your, forum that make discipline as your attitude towards life. Yes, right. I should be brought on time. I've seen a lot of journals when we have, say, a presentation or something, so like the VIP, let's say 6:30 is the VIP's time. And we used to say he would enter exact when it is 6:30. So you could time your clock with that. Now, they were the ones who actually become the bedrock examples for everybody. So that is why
Right.
I feel, it has to come from within. You can't inject it beyond a point.
Right. Because I connect with teenagers all the time. And, nowadays, in the world of social
Sorry.
media, they take pride in staying late till midnight or like 2, even 3 a.m. in the morning. Then they get up in the afternoon, I would say. They have not seen the rising sun, but they want to succeed in life. So, personally, I feel it is contradictory. You cannot have both these things,
Absolutely.
right? So, you have to come out of your comfort zone. And as you rightly said, be discipline is an attitude. Yes, must understand that we have to develop that. And that will automatically serve its purpose in all our areas of life. And thank you for saying that. I'm sure this is a golden nugget which the teenagers must understand because that is so very important in our lives. Yes, sir. Thank you for saying that, sir.
Absolutely.
And
And in fact, I know of some businessmen, like if they have given you appointment for, let's say, 11:30, and you have come there for a sales pitch or something, and you landed up there late, they don't entertain you. If you are going to be late here, I don't think we can do a deal with you.
right.
Now, so that is the importance of discipline. Ultimately, you can't be rushing uh,
Yeah,
for something. It's
right.
always better that you have an important thing on. Reach there half an hour early. What is the harm?
Right.
You'll be more comfortable. You'll understand the environment. You might get some people to talk to you who will firstly build up your confidence. You might get some information, which otherwise you may not get, which will help you in cracking that deal. Because
Right.
ultimately, see, you come to a company where the subordinate, you talk to somebody, he will tell you, "Arey, boss guy, just be careful. He does this." No, you are forewarned. And you never know. Sometimes those small nuggets which you get there can actually help to
Right.
crack the deal.
Right. Right. Exactly. And when we are on time, we are able to stay calm and we are able to,
Absolutely.
talk sense also. I would say that. Yes, sir. And sir, we read in the newspapers that Indian armed forces take part in the global missions as well. Even you serving as a United Nations military observer in Rwanda, it's actually rare. So, what global lessons did you bring back from that role? And one curiosity that I have is why do we send our troops? Is it really necessary? Should we be doing it? What is your take? Because I want to understand that.
You see, I went on a UN mission in 1995. I was a major. Okay.
Okay.
And in 1994, I had finished my defense. I had completed my defense services staff college course, which is a competitive course. And unless you have done that course, at least because in our time, because prior to that, we were only sending, say, an ambulance, say, some medicos, but we never sent regular troops uh, on a UN mission. Okay. It's like I went in 95. It's the gates only opened somewhere in 92, 93 onwards. Prior to that, we were just sending a very notional kind of a thing. Now, there are a lot of advantages which accrue firstly to the nation and secondly to the individual who goes.
Okay.
See, what now I will first talk about the national level because ultimately, see, the nation first. My personal thing comes later, the nation first. Now, we as a nation, as a nation are looking for a seat in United Nations Security Council as a permanent member.
Right.
So don't you think, my first thing is, don't you think our presence should be felt in all fields of life in the UN?
Right.
And
Agree.
this is one place where you can have your presence felt.
Right.
Okay. Secondly, you see, United Nations does not have a standing army. Okay. So any country which sends the armed forces, the UN pays for it. So let's say if an infantry battalion has gone to a place A, then the complete equipment and accoutrement for that, the duration that that force is there, is paid for by the United Nations. That's the first thing. Okay. Secondly, you're buying new equipment from your own country and you're taking it there. And after 1-2 years, when you're getting it back, then you see, if you know a little bit about depreciation, which is done. So if you bought, say, a vehicle for 1 CR, after first year, 30-35% depreciation, the cost is only 60 odd lakhs. After 2 to 3 years, its value comes down to just 25-30 lakhs. So you have only used that equipment for 2-3 years. You come back and pay just a chicken feed amount to get back that equipment with you, which can be used for another 10 years.
Right.
So that's the second benefit. Okay. Thirdly, you see, when, like, I will give you the example of Rwanda where we went. Okay. So when we went in 95, there was one mission which had, like, our predecessor, we relieved them and we landed up there. So, like, we went as military observers. There was also a contingent of ours, Indian battalion, which was there. Okay. So they were authorized to carry the weapons. We were military observers, not authorized to carry weapons.
Okay.
So we were dropped into various sectors. So I'll talk first about the observers, where our role was there. And then I'll talk about the infantry battalion, which was there at Kigali in Rwanda, the capital of Rwanda. Okay.
Right.
Now, there were officers from 23 nationalities, including Pakistan, USA, Canada, and all. Okay. And if I tell you that, like, we Indians officers were so good that most of the important appointments which were there in those sectors ended up in our lab. We were the ones who were controlling the whole thing.
Okay.
So we were cut above others, and people could see it that they are better than others. Okay. Like, our mission became humanitarian mission after that. By that time I joined after some time. So I was actually operating with people like UNHCR, ICRC, Human Rights Concern, all these organizations about which at that time I only read it in the general knowledge book. I never knew them or interacted with them on ground. Now I was seeing them face to face and I was operating with them. Imagine how much my horizon would have widened in that 1 year that I was there, working with these people, how they operate. And you could also impress them as to how we are cut above the others. Okay. Now I will talk about the Indian battalion, because that is very important, based at Kigali. So they were also responsible for our security to a large extent. So we had gone to Kigali. I don't recall why, but then on our way back, one of the human rights activists, because the place we stopped over. Now, this lady, moment she saw, "Are you Indian?" She says, "Your end back is the best." I was, surprised as to why is she so gaga about Indian armed forces. So then I said, "What happened?" He said, a couple of days back, there was some, mischievous elements. They were trying to, intrude into her house, and she got very scared. So she called up, firstly, the local police, no response. And then on the radio, she called up the INDBAT, Indian battalion, that we call that INDBAT. over there.
Okay.
She says,
Okay.
on the Motorola, I said in back for the help. And I said, by the time I kept my phone down, the patrol of Indian battalion was already there at my gate. He
Wow.
says, you people, how you do it? Now, see, now these people have come from various countries. We, if you look at it, a lot of human rights organizations and all, they keep criticizing India for our human rights records, this, that. But because they have only been fed negative news about us.
Right.
Now, here, some of those activists who have actually seen what we are doing, they carry that impression for life. They carry that impression for life, and they tell 100 more people, in fact, nothing like it. Indian troops, they are the best. Now, fast forward, December 95, the mission was getting downsized. Okay. So when from 6,000, if the mission comes down to 3,000, what should happen? Everybody should get downsized. All nationalities should get downsized. All other countries' strength comes down. Indian strength goes up.
Okay.
How do you like that?
Okay.
Now that speaks volumes about the Indian Army. And I don't think I can give you a better example than that as to what better professionalism we would have actually exhibited over there. That our troops go up, our military observers don't come down, whereas all others see a reduction in strength.
Wow.
Now that is what is Indian Army.
Sir, what you just narrated, there's a question that actually created curiosity for many years in my mind. See, when I read the news about the armed forces of other countries, there is certain level of brutality that is visible. But when I read or try to understand about the Indian armed forces, on one hand, they are treated as one of the most disciplined, very powerful, very strong, and like two sides of the same coin. All of a sudden, they change their avatar and become so humanly helping people, so soft, so caring. So, how are you able to maintain that two different aspects? Now, I'm sure that's so. Otherwise, we say a person carrying a weapon needs to be cruel, needs to be brutal. But Indian army is not that way. On one hand, you're so soft, so caring, and on the other hand, you are protecting the borders so bravely. And how do you do that?
If I just use one sentence, that what we are told is, uh, you know, uh, iron fist in a velvet glove. You have
Yes.
to be very, very soft, and it is ingrained into us that with people who are civilians, people who are women, people who are children, you have to be extra soft with them. And when required, take out the iron fist and give a knockout punch. And that is what
Yes.
our troops have learned from day one. That is what is ingrained into them. And trust me, at least I can say one thing with conviction, that the kind of record which our troops have observed in terms of ensuring that there are no human rights violations. An odd aberration here and there, I will not take. But we have the best track record. No other armed force in the world can match us anyway. They just can't match us. I've seen all nationalities, and in that diaspora over there, I can tell you that people used to look at us with awe. They are much, much better than us. And that is how possibly, I would salute the RIMC, the NDA, the IMA, who actually made us that way.
Yes, sir. So it's getting interesting. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And now getting academic now, because obviously this podcast is for aspirants. So many listeners dream of cracking NDA, CDS, or SSB, but then there is a fear of difficulty. And in fact, in India, when we talk of competition, it is just about everywhere. But then, what is that one mindset shift they must make today if they really want to be a part of it? What is your guidance on that?
See, if somebody is looking at, say, NDA or looking at CDS, uh, so the first thing he has to do is that he has to be consistent. If you're not consistent, it won't help you. And in consistency, as I started all-round personality, please ensure your physical fitness. You see, for an NDA aspirant, he still has a luxury that 3 years he will get in NDA to make up for it. But for a CDS candidate, he's already done his graduation.
Yes.
The time is already running out. So if he is not physically fit, he will find himself at a disadvantage at SSB. So he has to ensure that his physical fitness is of the high order. Secondly, again, I come back to the word attitude, because see, in SSB, you have a lot of tests to check, are you having a negative approach or the positive approach? Now, if you start having a positive mindset from day one, it will help you. Because ultimately, see, if I'm looking at glass half empty, I will look at everything which comes in my life as half empty. But if I'm looking at glass half full, my approach has become that way, because please understand, I have always told people that we are not American Army. We are Indian Army. We have to manage in limited resources. We are not a country who can fritter away resources. So we have to learn to do things in limited resources. So you can't keep crying, yeah, you have given me only half a glass. How do you think I will manage, or how will I fight a battle? Now that mindset has to be very, very important. Because otherwise you will not be able to crack the SSB. You may be able to crack the written exam, but SSB, unless you have the right mindset, it won't help.
Right.
Secondly, communication skills. See, ultimately, please understand, you may have wealth of knowledge in your mind, but if you can't communicate with me properly,
right,
what is the use of that knowledge?
Exactly.
Agreed? And the third thing which is linked to this is that, a lot of people don't look at this aspect seriously. See, man is a social animal. Now, social aspect is also very important. People think that I'm in my own cocoon, I can work. It doesn't happen. Trust me, it doesn't happen. It can't work that way. You have to be socially also adaptable. I'll tell you something very interesting, and then I will come to one of the questions which, a question which comes up in the SSB. That when I was a second lieutenant, from my first posting was in Sikkim, we came down to Dehradun as the second posting. So whenever there used to be a regimental party, so the junior most officer, he told you, okay, all the officers' wives who are there, go and ask them what drink do they want. So I'll go, ma'am, good evening, ma'am. What drink would you prefer? Then to the second, to the third. It is not that a waiter or somebody else cannot ask. If I take it negatively, then I will say I'm not a waiter. But actually, there is a essence and a meaning behind it. They know that this 22-year-old boy, he's become an officer, but there is still a childlike, mindset in him. He'll be hesitant to talk to the opposite gender. And I'm talking of the 80s, when you hardly could communicate with the fairer gender. This is the only way he'll be able to break the ice. Because when he go there once, twice, he will talk. He will develop that confidence to talk to the opposite gender. There is so much of ethos behind it. You have to understand that ethos. Why is a youngster being told to ask and then do small talk? Because unless you do small, you do big talk. And that is why a lot of times Our interviewing officer ends up asking a boy candidate, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Now, the thing is, we carry girlfriend as a different connotation. But actually, that is not what is the question that he's asking. He's asking, do you have a friend who's also from the opposite gender? So now when
Exactly.
I take my sessions with the children, I tell them, I said, see, you must say, sir, I have friends who are girls, but my best friend is Ramesh. Got the my best friend
Right.
to mera Ramesh hai. But I also have friends who are girls with whom I can exchange notes. I can, you know, uh, treat somebody for a cup of coffee. That shows that I'm socially adaptable by nature. He's actually looking at that. He's not looking at something else that which is dirty in your mind. It is not what he is looking at. Now, these are the things that children don't understand. And these are those finer
Exactly.
things which you have to understand that social adaptability is very important. Because if I'm not socially adaptable, I will not talk to people who are not familiar. And that doesn't
Right.
work because in army, you get postings every 2 3 years, new people, new environment. So adaptability has to be uh, ingrained into your system. So this is
Right.
very important.
No, no, so true. Now that's actually a beautiful example. Thank you, sir, for sharing it. And it makes a lot of sense. Right. And sir, now though we say a soldier is never on a holiday, a soldier never retires, but yes, you've transitioned now from military life to civilian mentoring. So, what challenges did you face? And if I may ask you, how did you reinvent yourself? Because as civilians, I do understand we are not so disciplined. So, how are you able to cope up with that?
Very interesting. In fact, I will tell you something over here that all the children who interact with me, uh, they feel that sir, it doesn't give us an impression that we are talking to such a senior retired officer.
Yes, you
So
you made
and
me
you
so
know,
comfortable, sir. I fully agree with that.
so the reason for that is that like again, I will again attribute it to destiny. You must listen to this story, which is very interesting. I was a GOC sub area in Dehradun, which is a very, very hot appointment. And from here, in 2016, I got my posting to Patna. Okay, mark the word Patna. I was head of NCC Bihar and Jharkhand. But word Patna and Bihar does not evoke a very positive emotion in anybody's mind. Okay. And Nitish had just become the chief minister again, and he had applied prohibition this time, 2016, somewhere in April, May, he had said prohibition in the state. Now, see, I'm not alcoholic by nature. I don't mind taking an odd drink in a social environment. But
Right.
I also am averse to the idea of somebody putting a gun on my head and saying, you will not do this. Okay. So I said, yeah, last posting. Why have I got a posting like this? So, those 10, 12 days before I landed up in Patna, I was brooding. Then I had six group headquarters under me, four in Bihar and two in Jharkhand. So in next 15 days, I had to visit all my group headquarters where the brigadiers are the heads. I came back. By then, now about 3 weeks had gone. Now I said, Sabi, you have about give or take 22 months. You अब तुमने इसको रो के गुजारना है या हंस के गुजारना है. Choice is with me. It is not with somebody else. So
Right.
I said, what should I do to make myself happy? So next day I called my Colonel GS. I said, see, pass an instruction to all the group headquarters that from next week onwards, I will start visiting the battalions. That means each district. Okay. And I said, when I go there, I'm not going to go that I come in the morning and go back in the evening. I will come one day and I'll go back the next day. Minimum 2 days I'll be spending. And in those 2 days, I want one school, one college where I can have an audience about 200 to 300 people, more the merrier, where I can give a motivational talk. Okay. And then started my journey. I was already reinventing myself without my realizing it. My first session was in Bhagalpur Agriculture University. So when I went to Bhagalpur, so their dean, like he was there when I gave my talk in the second half, and somebody was supposed to give a vote of thanks, but this gentleman, and he came on the stage, and he said, "Ki actually I was not even planning to attend the today's session, but it so happened that today in the morning I went to one major in Lucknow, and I told कि आज एक जनरल साहब आ रहे हैं, बच्चों को भाषण देंगे, उनको देने दो, मेरा क्या लेना देना." He said, but that major said, "Sir, it will be nice if you attend." He says, and now having attended, I'm regretting that my daughter is in 11th class. Why did I not get her here? Okay.
Okay.
Now, I don't think I could have got a better compliment. He says, I was not supposed to speak today. Somebody else was supposed to speak, but I'm speaking this because it's from my heart. And next 20 months, trust me, I was, wherever I went, I was only doing these sessions with the children, motivational talks. And I said, tell the principal, tell the dean, whether they attend or not does not matter. I don't even need a rosebud, because normally people think anybody who comes for a motivational talk is now expecting some gift or something. I said, I need nothing. I just need audience.
Yeah.
And I guess in that process of those 22 months, I actually kind of was willy-nilly honing myself for the CV street. I did not realize it, but it was happening. The transformation was taking place. So that is why, when I retired and I came back in Dehradun, two things happened. One was that, what I did not tell you when I was at UC Saveria here. You see, what happens is Dehradun is full of schools and colleges, and a lot of premium schools and colleges, and they look forward to some senior army officer coming for their annual day functions.
Okay.
Trust me, in those 24, 25 months that I was in Dehradun, any school, whether it was small or it was big like Doon School or Wellams, whosoever called me for any of their functions, I never said. So net result was, when I came back to Dehradun, I was already a known figure. I did not need an introduction, and I did not have a stiff upper lip. That was the best part. So net, I ended up being on the board of one school, board of directors. Then another school took me on their board. And then, because I was also being called by some of these news channels for their thing. So I got noticed at a lot of places. Then, about 2.5 years back, the Centurion Defense Academy from Lucknow, they were setting up shop here. So I had gone for one of these podcasts, Amar Ujala had conducted, where they were also one of the co-sponsors. So when they saw me on the podium speaking and all, they said, "Aapne to hame join karna hai." I said, "I already have my hands full." They said, "Sir, even if you give 1 hour in a week, whatever time you can give, but come." And trust me, I think, though I was initially reluctant, but joining them, I got a different direction, because now, you see, they are training people who are getting into armed forces. Whereas the other schools, that is not their motto. And last 2.5 years being with them, interacting with children, molding them, guiding them how to prepare for SSB, how to, the do's and the don'ts, was a very, very satisfying, fine thing for me. And I actually enjoy, because, I'll tell you, about 1.5 months back, one day when I got up, I was not, like you can't be always charged up. So one particular day when I got up, I said, yeah, energy levels are a little low. So I said, should I go today for the session or not? Then I said, nahi yaar, bachche wait kar rahe honge, acha nahi lagta. I went there. I had a 1.5 hours of session. And after 1.5 hours of session, I found the batteries are fully charged. So what do you learn from it? More you interact with the younger generation, more you give.
Yes. Right.
the better it is for your own health. That is how I will put it.
Exactly, sir. I fully agree with that. But and yes, you are looking so charged up even today, and I can understand and feel your energy. Right, right.
So now you know from where I get my energy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is where I get my energy from.
Right, right. And sir, I'm taking too much of your time, but if at the end, if you could give one life-changing piece of advice to every young Indian wondering whether to join the forces, what would it be?
See, firstly, I will talk in general. Irrespective whether you join armed forces or not,
Sure,
first
sir.
and foremost, be a good human being. एक अच्छा इंसान
Yes.
बनो पहले.
बिल्कुल sir.
Very important to be a good human being. Thereafter, try and pick up some leadership role. Wherever you are, don't wait for somebody to tell you to do something. Take the initiative and take that role of leadership. Leaders are not required only in the armed forces. In any and every walk of life, you need leaders. And the way our country is today progressing, we need leaders by the dozens.
Right.
So learn to pick up those baby steps now so that by the time you grow up, leadership comes naturally too.
Yes.
Thereafter, now you decide you want to join armed forces, fine. Focus there, become more social, have a positive approach towards life. Trust me, we don't need geniuses. We just need people with high average intelligence, with a little emotional quotient. दिल होना बहुत जरूरी है, emotions होने बहुत जरूरी है, because you are
बिल्कुल
actually
sir.
dealing with human beings. You will have
Right.
people under your command, and if you don't have emotions, then army is not the right place. Then go anywhere else, because army is not a profession, it's a way of life. You're 24/7 involved. If I tell you, like last night, there were a lot of there was a cloud burst and all. So in the morning,
Yes.
uh, there was a lot of damage all around. If I tell you that my old soldiers, about half a dozen of them, called me up today morning, कि साहब जी तुसी ठीक हो, I don't think I can ask for anything more than that.
Right.
I have retired more than 7 years back, and those soldiers were with me 20 years back. They are trying to know about my well-being. I think I can't ask God anything more than that.
Right. Rightly said, sir. I fully agree. Fully agree. Right. And sir, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing such priceless wisdom with us today. Your stories have shown us that life in the armed forces is not just about wearing a uniform. It's about discipline, sacrifice, leadership, and unshakable commitment to serve. So, to every listener who dreams of a career in the defense forces, remember the army doesn't just train you to fight battles, it trains you to win in life with integrity,
Absolutely.
clarity, and purpose. So, whether you choose to wear the olive green or follow a different path, let this conversation remind you that the true success comes from service, self belief, and the willingness to give your best every single day. So, to you, sir,
So
it
true.
has been an honor to learn from your journey. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into the Kapil Gupta Career PodShow. And if today's episode
Kapil,
inspired you, yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
should thank you for giving me an opportunity to connect to your viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
pleasure
you, sir.
interacting with you, and looking forward to meeting you someday in person.
Definitely, sir. I would love
Okay.
to. I'll feel honored to meeting you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
And to,
Bye-bye.
yeah.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
sir. Take care. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And to our listeners, thank you tuning to the Kapil Gupta Career PodShow. And if today's episode inspired you, share it with a young dreamer who needs a spark of courage. So until next time, stay curious, stay committed, and keep building a life of meaning. Thank you.